Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beneath the Silence, Healing the Wounds of Betrayal Trauma. I'm your host, Sandy Joy, and I'm so grateful that you're here today. So, welcome back to those who have watched the podcast before or listened to the podcast prior, and a warm welcome as well to those who may be new to the podcast and felt that this was the one that was really interesting for you or maybe was shared to you. So, whether you're a survivor, a helping professional, or someone trying to understand the complexities of betrayal trauma, this is a safe space for you, a platform for you to build community and to gain some understanding and hopefully receive validation. I want to just do a reminder that I don't edit these podcasts. I like them to be real, raw, and vulnerable. And I'm going to make mistakes. And that's okay because we're human and it's okay. So, today, what we're going to talk about, or what I'm going to talk about here, is one of the most misunderstood components of betrayal trauma and often one of the most stigmatized. Okay. So, we've talked about internalization before, the shame, self-blame, and this one is our response to betrayal, and that's anger. And it's often criticized, and that you need anger management, whatever the case may be. And yet, when it's aligned from betrayal trauma, it's a whole other aspect, whole other component. So if you've ever felt explosive, shut down, confused, disoriented, or like you didn't even recognize yourself anymore, this episode is for you. And before we begin, I want to make this very, very clear. You are not crazy, even though you may feel you are. You are not unstable, even though you may feel you are. You are angry, and you should be. Betrayal trauma anger is not the same as regular anger, the emotion of anger. It's not. And in this episode, we're going to explore why, what it signals about your wounds, and how you can begin working with your anger as a protective guide rather than seeing it as your enemy. So let's just take a nice deep breath together in through the nose. And we're just going to hold it. And then very slowly out your mouth. And we'll begin. So first I'm going to define what is betrayal trauma anger. It's first you have to note like regular anger, anger that you have witnessed, you have maybe experienced, well, you would have experienced. It's a normal emotion. It's usually short-lived. Okay. It arises when someone is rude, cuts us off in traffic, or when there's conflict or frustration. Okay. And it's proportionate. It's proportionate to the situation. Okay. And it is situational. And it usually fades once the issue is resolved or we've it usually fades very quickly. Betrayal trauma anger is entirely different. And it doesn't come from inconvenience or a particular situation. It comes from injury, psychological injury, moral injury, emotional injury, sometimes physical injury, sexual injury, financial injury. There's all kinds of components to this injury that it may be. And you may have more than one of those. Okay. And it's a violation of trust. This injury is a violation of trust. It's a rupture of attachment. It's a collapse of safety. It shows up in our body as intensity, trembling, heat, overwhelm. It shows up in our mind as racing thoughts, intrusive memories, looping questions, obsessions. It shows up in the heart of our grief, our shock, our humiliation, and our disbelief, all as a trauma response rather than a mood problem. Okay? If you've ever said, I don't recognize myself, I have never been an angry person, I've never hit anyone before, why am I reacting like this? You're not alone. Anger after betrayal comes from the deepest place of wounded attachment. And we're going to talk about, exactly about what that means. Okay. So, what is the research behind this? And I'm going to specifically talk about Dr. Crystal Hollenbach's work because she's one of the leading clinical voices of betrayal trauma anger. Know that much of the research that has been done has been about uh, sexual-based betrayal. So, flirting, infidelity, porn use, porn addiction, sex addiction. None of those are worse than the other. They have the same response. We often don't feel like if our partner is flirting, that it's as bad as if they have a sex addiction and, multiple sexual meetups with other people. They all hurt. They all harm. They all are betrayal trauma. And they all create this place of unsafety and attachment wounds and the trauma injury of anger. So Dr. Crystal Hollenbach, she did a study of 297 betrayed partners, and she found that 87% reported extreme anger. So that would be rage. 84% said it was the worst anger of their entire life. 87% reported self-blame. 43% reported thoughts of harming themselves. And 39% said their therapist or helper did not give them specific help for their anger. I want to also clarify while I use Dr. Crystal Hollenbach's work because she is leading in betrayal trauma and anger in betrayal trauma, that I would argue that if we did research on anyone who experienced betrayal trauma of any different kind, institutionalized, it doesn't have to be of being a partner of someone with, again, the flirting, infidelity, porn, or sex addiction. It can be, workplace betrayal. It can be harassment. It can be, any like sexual assault, rape. It can be physical abuse, financial abuse, whatever the case may be, cultural, religious, betrayal. So I'm going to say it just across the board in anything that I've already talked about. Okay. We can have this betrayal trauma anger. And I would argue that while I haven't done studies, there's so little research on this for all those other components, but I would argue that we would probably see very similar results, if not the exact same kind of results. Okay, very similar though. So one more statistic that I think is extremely important is 83.5% of betrayed partners stayed in the relationship after discovery. I did for 10 months. Had my reasons. And I'll explain those in a little bit when I get to an example. Okay. But this means the anger wasn't about leaving. It was about surviving. Okay. The anger is not dysfunctional. It is intelligent, protective, instinctive, and trauma-based, trauma-driven. If this describes you, I want you to hear me deeply in every ounce of your being. Your anger makes sense. Your anger is valid. Your anger has a message. It's trying to tell you something. And part of healing is learning to interpret what the message actually is. So we have attachment wounds. That's one of the part of betrayal trauma is we have attachment wounds. And that's what's underneath the anger. So let's explore what all that means. What is beneath that trauma anger? Because anger is not the core wound. It's the alarm system. It's the thing that's trying to tell us you're not safe. And there are 4 major attachment wounds that betrayal tends to activate. So the first is the violated trust. This isn't a nice to have, or trust isn't just nice to have. It is an attachment bond. Trust is the foundation of safety and love. If we don't have trust and safety, we don't have love. We may have caring. We may have, I thought I loved. And if we don't have trust and safety, it's very difficult to love. Those are the foundations. When trust is broken through deceit, secrets, sexual betrayal, double lives, the body reacts as though danger is present. This is why anger feels so explosive. Your nervous system is trying to protect you. The second part here is loss of safety. Trust, safety. Safety isn't just physical, it is emotional, it's relational, it's sexual, it's spiritual, and it's psychological. And all those components of safety are equally critical. When betrayal occurs, your internal world says, I'm not safe here anymore. Anger becomes a survival strategy, a way to reclaim your voice, your power, and protection. The third component of the attachment wounds is this is one of the most painful parts of betrayal. Because people who experience it go, who am I now? What's my purpose? How did I not see this? Was my entire relationship a lie? I ask those questions. And what I realized for me is, well, my ex was deceptive, full of lies, pathological liar. deceit. I lived my truth. So what I experienced, what I gave out was true. What I experienced from him, I now realize was all manipulation, grooming. I don't know that my ex was truly ever, and he's still in addictions. Will he ever be able to truly love? And the answer to that, I could say right at this time, no. And a component of that is that he doesn't love himself. And if we don't love ourselves, it's really, really difficult to truly love someone else. So, again, was my entire relationship a lie? Your anger here is tied to a sense of self being shattered, and that deserves compassion rather than judgment. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, and you're going to hear it multiple times in multiple different podcasts, is that we are so damned good at breaking ourselves down, but we effing suck at building ourselves up. And that's part of the healing journey, is we got to start building ourselves up. So the fourth component is moral injury. Betrayal violates our deepest sense of what is right and wrong. It injures our moral core. This is where righteous anger comes from. A sense that something profoundly unjust has just happened to you, not by you, to you. And if we layer betrayal, so family with culture or religion or institutionalized, when betrayal comes from multiple sources, a partner, family, culture, religious, community, or even a therapist. And yes, therapists can betray you. I'm going to give you some examples of that. Actually, I'm doing a podcast on what if your therapist has been a betrayal trauma perpetrator to you. Okay, so I'm not going to get into it in this podcast, but when it's layered, when it's multiple, anger grows exponentially. Why? Because each layer compounds confusion, shame, and betrayal blindness. So just as I talked about in the last podcast, okay? And each layer makes healing more complex. If this is you, your anger is not too much. It is proportional to the wounds you have endured. So why does it feel like it's out of control? If you felt like your anger is uncontrollable, unpredictable, frightening, here's the key reasons. It activates the nervous system, not the mind, not our logical mind. Your body is in hyperarousal. You're scanning for danger. Your brain is trying to restore a shattered reality. And anger becomes the voice of survival. It comes in waves because trauma comes in waves. It spikes with triggers because your body is trying to protect you. I'm going to do a podcast on trauma triggers as well, just so you know. I'm not going to, again, get into that specifically right now, okay? So when your body is trying to protect you, this is important. This is really important because betrayal anger doesn't subside with ambiguity, denial, minimized harm, and trickle truth. You know, full stop. It doesn't subside when we get a little bit of truth, but how much of that, what is being said, has been omitted, which is a lie. lie by omission, or there's a little piece of truth, but the majority of what was said is a lie. You know, when the betrayal is still active, even though secrecy or lack of transparency, or even through secrecy or lack of transparency, anger will continue to erupt. Your anger isn't the problem. The betrayal is the problem. The betrayer is the problem. The secrecy is the problem. The lack of safety is the problem. The violation of trust is the problem. Which all has to do with psychological abuse. So when we're working with anger, rather than against it, because we try to compartmentalize it often or push it away, let's talk about how you can approach your anger with compassion and agency. And I'm going to give you some steps here. Number one, it's validate it. You don't need somebody else to validate your anger. You can validate it. It is real. It is raw. And it is important. And it's trying to send you a message. Say to yourself, my anger makes sense. I am having a normal response to being harmed. Validation calms the nervous system. The second here is ask, what is my anger protecting? Often, betrayal anger is trying to protect your safety, your truth, your power, your instincts, your dignity, your boundaries, and your sense of justice. So let's identify the type of anger. Not all anger is the same. You might be feeling protective anger, righteous anger, that's the seeking justice about the injustices, grief disguised as anger, panic mistaken for anger, overwhelm without words. Often anger is that shield. Naming it helps tame it. When I say the shield, anger usually, especially in betrayal trauma, it's a shield when we're feeling fear. And that could be that panic mistaken for anger. Sadness, that's the grief. Powerlessness, that's the protective anger. Vulnerability, that can be the overwhelm. That can also be the protective anger. Naming it helps tame it for you to have control of it. How do we regulate then? How do we gain control of it? I'm going to give you some simple tools here. If you worked with a therapist before, you may have heard of some of these. It's saying, or it's giving, it's called the 90-second rule. It's giving yourself 90 seconds. Just sit with it. Don't try to push it away. Close your eyes if you need to. Take some deep breaths, breath work, slow, deep breathing. That's another component. It'd be good to do that while you're doing the 90-second rule. 90 seconds it takes for our body to process what our anger is trying to let us know. And physiologically, it can pass through us within 90 seconds. We have to take those 90 seconds and just breathe. Cold water resets. Splash your face with cold water. Run your hands under cold water. Cold water resets the nervous system. Grounding hand to chest. Feel your heartbeat. Feel your heartbeat. Maybe you're even putting them in your neck. Feel your pulse in your neck. On your stomach, that's your second brain. Dr. Minwala calls it stomach, second brain. So you can do your chest and your stomach. And just close your eyes. Do that 90 seconds. Pause phrases. I need time. I will respond later. I'm overwhelmed. I cannot do this right now. I need time. Another thing that you can say is, I am safe. I am safe in my own body and in my own decisions. And if that means you need to walk away and take that time, you do that. You do whatever you need to do for you. Your choice. You get to control the narrative, not anyone else, especially not the perpetrator. The fifth avenue for calming the nervous system is truth and accountability. Sorry, that's regulating the nervous system. This is where I'm checking. This is working with anger, not against it. So the fifth component here is truth and accountability. Its anger naturally decreases when gaslighting stops, accountability begins, full disclosure happens. I am so a proponent of full disclosure as soon as possible, because it's a year past, 2 years past, and you've had the trickle effect. Every time you get new information or find out something else, you're down that deep, dark hole again. Soon as possible, so there are no secrets left. Transparency is rebuilt. Counseling is consistent. Deception ends, and safety increases. You can't control some of these things, though. It's truth and accountability, but you can't control whether the perpetrator stops gaslighting you. You could control whether you listen to it, but you cannot control another person's actions. Cannot control if accountability is going to happen or not. You can wish it, you can ask for it, but ultimately it's up to the perpetrator to be accountable for their own actions and own it. And in the words of Dr. Harriet Lerner, a true apology. So somebody saying, I'm sorry I hurt you. A true apology does not ask the hurt party to do anything, not even forgive. Okay. Transparency about you need that information. You need to know where I was. You need to have proof that I was where I said I was, or I wasn't where you think I was. I will get that proof for you. And stop. Full stop. It's transparency. With these, anger is designed, without these, anger is designed to persist. And from anger comes resentment. You may not even feel anger anymore, but you might feel resentment. And that resentment may continue to grow. And resentment is anger, just disguised in a different way. Another thing you can do is create an anger map. So working with anger rather than trying to push it away, write down. And if you're not a writer, talk about it. Do a voice note, whether that's a voice note to yourself in Messenger or on your phone or whatever that looks like. But write it down. What triggered you? What you felt? What anger was trying to protect? What need was not being met? What boundary is required? What support is needed? What do you need? What did you need in that moment, and what do you need right in this moment? And this one, next part is for partners and helpers. Okay. So the people who are the betrayers and those who are supporting. So counselors, coaches, therapists. For betrayers, your partner's anger is evidence of the harm done to them by you. The most healing things you can offer are truth, full truth, transparency, accountability, consistency, empathy, and no defensiveness. To deny, defend, or project makes it all about you and not about the hurt party at all. And it speaks to a lack of recovery, a lack of ownership, a lack of understanding and compassion for the harm, and empathy for the harm that you have caused by your actions, intentional or not. That's what happens. Healing requires more than an apology. It requires repair. For therapists and coaches, counselors, do not minimize. Yeah, I'm going to add friends and family members. Okay. Do not minimize betrayal anger. Do not tell someone that they have anger issues. Instead, explore attachment rupture. Understand that attachment rupture that they've experienced. The moral injury, the trauma activation, the ongoing harm, the layered betrayal, the identity collapse. Who are they now? Who am I? Trauma-informed listening is critical, and I would beg you, if you are a professional in the field, please become trauma certified. And even though you will be trauma certified, you will not learn about betrayal trauma. I have 4 trauma certifications, and not one of them did I learn about betrayal trauma. That's why I created my course. If you have questions about my course, please feel free to reach out. And this is not a selling thing. You don't have to take my course at all. It's to learn more about betrayal. And as we close today, I want you to hear this. All of you. Survivors, helpers, perpetrators, family and friends. I would like you all to hear this. And this is for the survivors. Your anger is not who you are. It's the echo of what was done to you. It is your body asking for healing, truth, and safety. You are not too much. You are not overreacting. You are wounded, and your anger is the messenger. I know we're at the 30 minutes here, and I'm going to say this very, very quickly as I can. 3 days after finding out about my husband at the time affair, we were together almost 34 years. I had moved out of our bedroom across to my grandchildren's room, the nursery that we had for them, because there was no way in hell I was staying in that same bed. And I moved out across the hall. But on my clothes, my pajamas, everything, all my, toothbrush, everything was on the ensuite bathroom. And this was 3 days after finding out, and the day of finding out about 2 in-person affairs, finding out about online affairs and porn, sex addiction, and then finding out about actual 2 in-person affairs. On that day, there was so much more I found out as time went on. I would not speak to my husband at the time. I didn't have any words. I was in so much pain. It was all I could do to move. I went up. I was going upstairs. I was getting ready for bed. And I had said to him, do not follow me, because he had been following me. He wanted to talk, and I couldn't. I knew nothing good would have come out of it. I was not in the place. And I said, please respect me enough to leave me alone. I went up, I locked the bedroom door, washed my face, brushed my teeth, and I was getting my pajamas on. I was pretty much naked. And he used a nail or something to undo that lock and come in the bedroom. And I screamed, and I was furious. I have never really felt that rage before. I quickly got my pajamas on, and he kept coming closer to me, and I was scared because there was no respect. There was no understanding at all. And given just a few hours prior, when I learned about the two in-person affairs, I literally was sick to my stomach. And it was my 28-year-old son who was in the powder room with me holding my hair as I threw up, who got me a cool washcloth and put it on the back of my neck. Well, his father, my husband at the time, stood in the kitchen, powder room was just off the kitchen, and said, oh, this is the best day of my life. Because he didn't have to carry that. He disclosed two in-person affairs. Little did we know, there's many more down the road. But that day, I was scared. I was furious. And he kept coming closer. And I punched him, fist in the chest, and told him to get the F out. Just get the F out. You can't even respect me wanting to change, wanting to get my pajamas on. And at the third punch, I stepped back and I'm sobbing. And it was like, I am a monster. And I went, you turned me into a monster. I don't even know who I am. And I was screaming, and my son, I've been downstairs, and he came running up, and he's going, Mom, Mom. And he didn't physically stop me. He stopped me with his words, and he said, Mom, come with me. And he said to his father, you stay right there. His father listened, no. But he went down to the basement. My son did, and he got his punching bag. And he brought it up to the kitchen. And he goes, have at it, Mom. And he held it. As I just took punch after punch after punch to that punching bag. Especially right hand. My right hand was bleeding. I have a scar actually on my hand. And he kept saying, Mom, do you want to stop? You're bleeding. No. I needed to get it out. I needed to get that rage out. I hated myself for punching him until I learned that it was because I was not safe. I was not respected. I was ignored. I was like, I didn't matter. Would I do it again? I hope not. I didn't like the me that did that. Yet I learned to love her in my healing. And I did what I needed to. It's okay. It's okay. Even as a therapist, I wasn't able to utilize the tools because I was so in survival mode. And that can happen to you. That may have happened to you already, and it may happen to you again. If we can use some of those tools, great. But this is about self-compassion. So I want to thank you for being here with me today, for choosing your healing, and for letting me walk this path with you. I am so grateful for all of you for listening to Beneath the Silence, Healing the Wounds of Betrayal Trauma. And remember that healing is possible, even from those deepest, darkest wounds. If this episode was helpful for you, please share it with someone who may need to hear it or see it, listen to it. If you are able, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like and share the podcast so that others may learn and find community and validation. For more resources or information on my betrayal trauma course, please visit my website at sandrajoy.ca. And then join me next week as we continue to explore the question, is it codependency or safety? Hint, always safety. And until next time, take gentle care of yourself. And remember, I see you, I hear you, and I believe you. Until we meet again.